So good evening, everybody. Welcome to live interactions with global change makers. Today we have one of the most experienced professionals in the public sector company and has had 2 decades of experience in the development sector. He has done his MSW from Osmania University and is a certified CSR professional from Indian Institute of CSR, Corporate Affairs. He has been working in NSFDC since 1999 and has rose to the ranks as Assistant General Manager of CSR and Sustainability. I would like to welcome Mr. Satish Thota. Welcome on the show, sir. May I request you to unmute yourself? So may I request you to unmute? So you are on mute. May I request you to unmute, please?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Harsha ma'am, you have already given my introduction. Thank you for the introduction. It was nice of you. So it's a mutual learning session, and I hope that it will be a win-win situation for all of us during the deliberations.
So you have been working in the development sector since 2 decades. How has your journey been?
Madam, 2 decades since I have started my professional career. However, I have started my graduation in the year 89 for bachelor's in social work. So per se, in the development sector, I am there since the year 89. And as with everybody, as with all sectors, the journey has been a mixture of learning, failures, struggles, and achievements and success. Particularly in contrast to the development sector, I have been able to, my underlining principle or underlining factor was whether I am associated with my lecturers or co-students, friends, or to the community, or later stage when I have joined the organization to my seniors and community at large. The underlining principle has always been that I should, to some extent, be able to satisfy the interaction we had or the association we had. So I feel that to the large extent, I have been able to satisfy the stakeholders and various associated during the path of my journey, and that itself gives me the satisfaction of the journey.
What were the challenges when you started your journey in the development sector and now, and how could it have been better?
Ma'am, in 89, the sector of social development did not exist, or even if it existed, it was at a very micro level. So when we used to take up this issue of social development, when we used to bring it to various forums, the initial question was, is there such a profession? Is there need for such a profession? Because maybe a couple of years earlier or before that, the development perspective or the charity perspective was oriented towards philanthropic activity. So development as a profession was a new thing coming up during my college and early years of my profession. So at that stage, so when it's at such a nascent stage, the organizations of the professionalism was also very big at an earlier stage. And also in contrast to the funding was totally dependent either on the government funding or funding through foreign donor agencies. So when you may be aware when there is a paucity of funds, so the development of the sector itself was at a question. So now gradually things have changed, and CSR has now come, which has opened up multiple avenues. And what could have been better? It was then, and even now to some extent, the dependency has always been there with the funding agencies. Now the concept of development sector is it has not always been self-sustaining. The NGOs or the development organizations, they have also always looked at other bodies to fund their activities. So earlier, the extent of dependency was much higher. To some extent, it has reduced, but the component of dependency still remains as on date.
So you have worked in your brief career in education, healthcare, livelihood, and lately psychological interventions during COVID-19. Please share more about the cases that you must have handled during these tumultuous time.
Yes, ma'am. I will break it down into two, three parts. With regard to the education sector, I would take up our recent initiatives. So we have started one mobile science lab. It's one of the innovative project. We are working with the Tech Mahindra Foundation for this project. We have developed a bus where for scientific experimentation, there are about 200 articles by which experimentation can be done. This experimentation for the students, particularly up to the school students up to third class, it is open to mainly to the government schools of Delhi, East Delhi Municipal Corporation. So this will facilitate the scientific temper among the students and also compensate to some extent the gaps on provision of experimental equipments in the science laboratories of the schools. So this is one area. Now we have just recently started. So through the medium of your platform, I would also invite whoever are interested. It is basically located in Delhi. So I will whoever will be interested that if they are working with some developmental oriented schools, they can request us and we can make a visit free of cost. We can come to the school or a particular locality where we have a trainer with us. We have audio visual equipment, so we can support the scientific aspects of the children. And this is one area of education innovative we have. The other thing is we have also worked on the temperament and the talent of these school children. See, now even in these days, even when so many professions have opened up, to date, till date, there are some professions which are maybe called as the best professions or the prime professions, and the other professions are not given the importance. So, children, it's not that all children will have an aptitude for maybe a software engineering or maybe a medicine or architecture or something like that. So what we have done is we have done a psychometric assessment. We have done psychometric testing to basically to identify the latent talents of the children. Some students may be good at science, some students may be good at math, some students may be good at social, some students may be good at singing, some students may be painting. So we are trying to identify what are their latent talents and what are their latent interests. So, on identification of their potential strengths and talents and attitudes, we have organized a counseling session with the children as well as their parents to orient them that see your child has exceptional qualities in maybe painting. So these are various career options open to him. These are various educational institutions where the painting skills can be found. So this is one other aspect which we have done at a pan-India level, and we have worked with IIT Chennai for this project. So these are the two sectors, two activities in the education sector. And coming to the health sector, so this is COVID. 2020 was always it's a COVID year. It's predominantly a health-oriented activity. So for health-oriented activity, we have distributed PPE kits for because of the in the initial stages there was a lot of problem with regard to the PPE kits. There was a lot of shortage of medical equipment. So in some hospitals in remote areas of Manipur or Bihar, we have arranged the PPE kits and medical equipments. And also we have done before the COVID starting project, we have identified one very remote area in Telangana, a town called Siddipet, where there are very acute lack of facilities for eye care. There was only one eye hospital there, which is a charitable hospital. It's a very reputed hospital, LV Prasad Eye Institute. So they were coming up with a not-for-profit eye hospital there. So they have requested us to provide some surgical equipment for their hospital. So we provided them the surgical equipment. Then with regard to particularly to the COVID, we were involved in the ration kit distribution and feeding program. We have made the food requirements of more than 10 lakh people. Apart from that, we have done an animation film for generating awareness on COVID. The animation film in Hindi, so which will be easily even understood to the in the rural areas. We have and we have done lot of awareness and publicity on how to manage the COVID, what are the safety precautions to be taken, how to access medical care when somebody is affected, quarantine, and so on and so forth. So this is pertaining to our health activities. And in contrast to livelihood, we have identified a project at Bandipora in Jammu Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir, Bandipora, it's a terrorist prone area. So, but in the Bandipura, there is one village. Village name is Astango village in Bandipura. So there, the artisans, particularly the women artisans, they are very good at weaving skills. So, they have good at weaving skills. But what is happening is they were dependent on the middlemen for getting their raw material or to sell their products. So their skill was also not being full potential of their skill was also not being extracted from them. So what we have done is we have done a microcluster program with again for Indian Institute of we have joined with Indian Institute of Carpet Technology there. So we have identified entrepreneurs, about 20 women entrepreneurs we have identified. We are honing their carpet weaving skills. We are giving them all the support. We are giving them the raw material. We are giving them the looms. We are giving them the designs, and we are also opening up the market. And once they are able to start their manufacturing, apart from their traditional markets, we will also be opening avenues at various exhibitions like Pragati Maidan exhibition and other international exhibitions. And also we link up through portals for manufacturing of the carpet products. Then in Lucknow, we are working on a goat-based livelihood project. Again, there we are working with women. We are surprised because women are there, but the goat rearing they are able to do, but they are not able to fully do it in a sustainable manner. So there is a lot of mortality. There are health issues. Productivity is less. So we have identified rural folk there who are into goat rearing. So goat rearing initially it is maybe either for the meat or the milk. That is what is the traditional revenue generation activity. So now we are trying to expand on it. We are trying to bring in other products like soap manufactured with goat milk, ghee, and other various other byproducts, so that the marketability of the products will be increased and their income generation will be increased. On contrast to the psychological interventions, madam, one interesting what has happened is during the Delhi riots time. So when the Delhi riots happened and when the riots subsided, so the entire attention was towards the riot victims. Riot rehabilitation was taking shape. But as soon as the COVID started, that was maybe in February, the riots has happened and COVID started in around March. So once the COVID started, so all the attention was taken away by COVID, and the rehabilitation program of the riot victims was maybe a little bit held up. So what we are trying to do there is because there are a lot of apart from the financial loss, there are a lot of emotional and psychological scars affected to the people because of the riots. They have lost their family, they have lost their incomes, they have lost their property, their houses have been damaged. So it has had a deep impact, a psychological impact on the people affected. So what we are doing is we are identifying such people, where we are seeing their emotional their status, how they are able to cope up, and and we are giving counseling to them. And in case of serious issues, we are also taking the help of AIMS in providing referral services. 2 doctors from AIMS are also associated in this project. So these are about a brief of our activities in the various sectors.
What are the prime criteria for selection of the project, and how can NGOs and social initiatives approach you for not only funds, but also for possible collaborations in your initiatives?
Yes, there is a very interesting question, and it's maybe a time of the question, time of the hour question for us, because we are trying to uh, enter into some new avenues. So before that, I will just to try to give a small introduction of our organization. Our organization has two sides of a CSR. Normally, CSR, either it will be a CSR recipient organization or it will be a CSR funding organization to a large extent. But we are a Section 8 company. We are a not-for-profit company. By being a company, we have to do our own CSR activities out of our revenue generated. And being a Section 8 company, we are also a CSR recipient organization. It means that we can also take funds, and at the same time we can also spend. We have to spend out. The difference is, while we are spending our funds, it will be not in our core areas of activity, and when we are taking funds, it will be for our core area of activity. So then, if you are having us the prime areas of developing partnerships would be one. I will start with the funding part, where we give our funds to our partner organizations. Then I will also brief on the partnership where we can work together through raising funds externally. So obviously, for funds which if we are able to sanction, our orientation is mainly for asset-oriented projects, which have relevance and need to a particular geographical area and particular activity. Along with that, the organization should be of repute. And basically, another criteria we hold is that we ensure that the organization, so as to have the credibility of the organization, it should be recommended to the local government. So we are open for all activities under Schedule 7 and social development goals. Only thing is, three factors of preference for us. One is asset oriented. The other is they should have a reach to the unreached. Maybe if they are having some pockets, maybe in the remote areas or tribal areas. So the reaching of the unreached is critical for us. Then the third point is we are very open for innovative projects. We like to experiment. We are open to new initiatives, and at the same time, funding means it need not be in high volume. It will not be a high cost. It could be a low cost CSR initiative, but definitely the impact should be high with this initiative. So these are the critical factors where we fund our activities. We do it at a pan India level. And those organizations who would like to apply to us, you have my details. And on our website, we have a format for sending CSR proposals. So now, current year, we are almost completed for this current year. Anyhow, we can take the proposals to plan for projects for the year 2021. This is one part where we are talking of the projects where we can fund. The other part, which is very interesting, is we have developed certain models of partnership with public as well as private. So we have one huge component of skill training programs. And when I'm talking of these activities, see, our operational area, our operational target group is scheduled castes. So any partnership or any plan, it has to be restricted to scheduled caste population. So in scheduled caste population, when we are talking of skill development, we have an initiative where corporate foundations, like the private sector, like for example, we have started this with some few organizations like Tech Mahindra Foundation has come with us. Ambuja Foundation, Pearl Madam, who was earlier one of your speakers, they are also associated with us. Ambuja Cement Foundation, then Dalmia Bharat Foundation, Hindustan Latex Limited. These are all organizations. What will we come together? The USP of this model is they share something of the project cost. We also contribute something, and the implementation takes place through these foundations. So this we have started for skill training. Now, including skill training, we have other activities on income generation, low cost of financing, microcredit financing. So in these activities also, if any corporate foundations, anybody want to join us, partner with us, maybe if it may not be always financially, maybe sometimes it could be technical, sometimes it could be some value addition. So we are welcome, they are welcome, we can work on, we can come together, we can plan a collaborative and joint initiatives.
So since you can also receive CSR funds and you also give CSR funds, you are the ideal person for us to ask what we IICSR being a dedicated research development training institution in CSR and sustainability, what kind of courses do you foresee us to roll out in times to come, and what according to you is the career prospects in this field in CSR primarily?
Right. It's a very nice question, madam. I regularly receive your mailers about various training programs being conducted, various activities being conducted by your organization, and I am highly appreciable of the work being done by your organization. So, but I still find that there could be some areas. There is always a scope for continual improvement, and maybe some areas do not catch the attention from my perspective. So, I would like to share those. Madam, one thought has been always been if there are so many grassroots level people who have done lot of contribution, whether it could be in the area of self-help groups, they are uneducated, they are village people, uneducated people, but they have done outstanding work in maybe in self-help group development or developing wastelands into forests or barefoot doctors. So these kind of specialists are there. They are not qualified, they are not professional, but they have a huge knowledge and they have huge potential for sharing the information. So maybe it could be in form of a training program, or it could be a form of an exchanging of information activity. So these kind of people, so they can be associated for our programs. This is one area. The other area, madam, I have always been thinking, and even the say development sector or the NGO sector, it is always one thing which is always there in the how to get funds, from which organization I can get fund, how to generate fund. This is the biggest problem. So one thing is you are training the organizations how to raise funds. That is okay, but when we are trying to raise funds, we are dependent on X organization. We have a project timeline, we have a philosophy, we have a methodology, we have a policy. So, but when that gets transformed to when it goes to a funder, the funder has his own perspective, he has his own ideology, he has his own budget limitations or planning. So, what happens is that it may not be always that it is an ideal match. So, my crux of the point is, why not develop the organizations to be on a self-sustaining mode? The other day, I was speaking to one of my friends who was with a child rights organizations of US-based child rights organizations. He was asking me for CSR support. So I told him, yeah, we are there to support you. That's there. We are there, and you are doing good for us. That is okay. But I asked him, you should do something of your own to generate some revenue. Then he told me, we are working with children. What sort of a what sort of a generate of income we can generate? So I told him a very simple thing. I told him, you organize a free health program with your children. Take them to malls, take them to multiplexes, maybe take them to parks. You organize a free health program. And those who want to donate, they will give some funds. Maybe somebody may give 10, somebody may give 100, somebody give 1,000. So the idea is to develop their capacities to be self-dependent. So instead of always training them to be maybe to prepare a proposal, to network with organizations, there is also a need for developing their own income generation potential. So when that is there, they will be always confident that, oh, for this project we need these funds and we have this method to generate, and we will be able to sustain this. So they will not be dependent on any other organization. If it is a foreign donor, there could be some other underlying need for them to support. So whether it is, then it will have the potential to increase the sector, because the funds wherever the chunk is increased, but however there will be always a shortage of funds. So so when the organizations learn to generate the income by themselves, then they can support them, and this activity can be increased to a large extent. So this is one other area where you can focus on. Third could be social entrepreneurships. So social enterprises are also, to a lot of extent, so much of activities going on. Incubators are there, social entrepreneurs. There are also various institutions giving training for. So, but social entrepreneurship is one area where you can also help the organizations or individuals to come up with activities. One side it will help the development sector. At the same time, it will be revenue generation. So these are the three areas which I thought that your organization can focus on. Maybe I don't know whether you have focused on these three areas before, but these are activities have come to mind, and I thought I should share it. So then, with regard to job potential, madam, yes, compared to when we have started our career and now, there is a huge change in the landscape, and every profit-making organization may need a CSR professional now. This is okay. Job creation, there is a huge potential, but apart from that, again, maybe with your learning programs or to other means, we can I highly appreciate your organization and you, madam, that you have come up with a startup in the development sector. So startups are there in the commercial sector, service sector, manufacturing sector. Everywhere the startups concept is there, but the idea of a startup for the development sector, it is yet to catch up. Maybe it is there here and there, if your organizations are there, but maybe we have to make a pitch for a startup in the development sector. What will do, it will provide self-employment opportunities and also increase avenues opportunities for employment. So this is with regard to the careers and employment, which I would like to share.
Thank you so much, sir. We shall ensure that we will roll out these courses in times to come, and I'm sure you would nominate few people for these courses too.
Surely, madam. Surely, definitely, as it is feasible.
On this note, I may request my fellow panelists to ask their queries, Dr. K.K. Upadhyay. Others, if they have questions, please raise your hand and we shall give the opportunity.
Thank you, office, and met two people and associated with your activities and others. What I want to know from you is, like, COVID has changed the whole scene now. The way we used to operate and the way we are operating. What will be three major trends in CSR? I'm not talking about your organization, I'm talking about in general. In general, what will be CSR trends from now onwards?
Sir, CSR trends, maybe if you are talking of the current situation, it will be mainly towards the health sector.
Okay.
Trends is a very in very large context. Trends in which in particular, which dimension, which particular area trends?
I mean, like, where CSR will be spent, who will be the beneficiaries now? Will there be really CSR? Will there be enough money after profit?
Definitely. Why not, sir? Maybe the scale may reduce to some extent for a few years. But as you are aware, it is governed by Schedule 7 activities, aspirational districts. So these activities will be there, and this will be continue. Even being in the government now, there are so many questions from the DPE. What are the activities we are doing? There is CAG. CAG is now coming up with a entire booklet on PSUs, how the public sectors are going through the audit compliance for CSR activity. So entire Schedule 7 would be there, sir. Then every year there will be theme-based activities which will be notified by the DPE. So as you know, this year the theme is education and nutrition and health. So similarly, the government insists that 60% of the activities are to be near about 60 are to be focused on these areas, particularly with preference to aspirational districts. So the trends would be, at least in the public sector, it will be governed through the theme-based activity and Schedule 7 activities.
Sure, sir. And as an organization,
Yes, sir.
what will you like young people who are coming in this field? Because I work with a lot of MBA colleges and all. They are finding a little difficult now, especially the MIT. They have about 42 students in Master of Social MSW.
Okay.
They are finding a problem now in getting them placement. So what will be trends in employment or the placement in CSR arena?
Yes, it will remain, sir. Maybe a slowdown will be there for about a couple of years because of the maybe reduced profits. So in this context itself, I was also speaking to Harsha ji, ki instead of orienting all students towards a job, it is us to maybe facilitate and enable them to take up some startups. Let them start their own organizations, let them start their own income generating activities. Maybe they can start with some basic evaluation study. Maybe they can do some small activities like social mapping. So that we have to see that we have to build entrepreneurs from our sector. So if all of us are dependent only on employment, so maybe there could be some shortage of employment. So we have to see to what extent we'll be able to facilitate them to have their own startups and self-employments. And if you at
Do
a
you
perspective,
provide loan and finance for it? Do you
yes,
provide finance and
yes, definitely. As an organization for scheduled castes, we have loaning activities for activities up to 5 lakhs. For scheduled caste, our rate of interest is to the beneficiaries, it is only 6%. So we can fund them.
okay?
Apart from that, at a organization level, what I would like to share is if you have some students who would like to come up for some internship, it will not be a full scale job type of a thing, but if they are they want to come for interesting. I just spoke to Harsha. There are so many areas we have to work, and my department is hard pressed with staff. If some professionally qualified students are able to come, and it's not necessary that they may stay for 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. They can always leave when they get a good opportunity. But if they come and join us, at least we'll be able to give some experience certificate to them. Working with the government and at a scale we operate, it will add value to their curriculum.
Sure. Over to you, Harsha.
Thank you, sir, for the question. May I request Andali to also come forth and ask her question? Andali?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Arsha. Thanks. Thanks for inviting. And hello. Sorry, I'm traveling, so I'm just going to, mute myself right after I question so that there's less disturbance. Sir, thank you for the informative session so far. Actually, one of the things that I wanted to understand is that, CSR has been in line for a couple of years now. And I'm one of the recent switches over, from the corporate into the social sector, primarily because very inspired by the social angle to the otherwise capitalistic view of the way the world works. But one of the things I wanted to understand is what I have personally not felt so far. It's been about a year and a half that I'm working in the social and development sector. Is that how can one organization actually, make their impact visible? How can CSR overall come together and showcase the amount of work they've done and be known for it and acknowledged as well? Any thoughts on that, sir?
Madam, as you are already aware, there is a lot of activity going on in this fund. There are various programs, conclaves, exhibitions being held. Visibility and impact, madam. At least to my perspective, I would let my work speak. So when the area where we are working, the project where we are working, if we can have an impact oriented project which can catch national and international headlines, so there is nothing better than that.
That's true. That's true. But is there something that you feel that the sector is not doing and something that can be done? Is there something in your experience, sir, that you feel that we should be doing a lot more of, maybe?
Madam, this sort of a maybe the experience sharing or conclaves, get-togethers, these maybe are not to the extent to which should happen.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the other potential is we are maybe not able to map out the huge database of the professionals. Professionals meaning not only the qualified professionals, but also there are grassroots level people who are working they are working with so much of innovation and they are having a large impact. So when we like if we can have an association of this organization sort of a thing, and when we have some, maybe we can develop an app where the organizations and the professionals can come together. Uh, each one will be having his own need, and each one will be having his own asset to share. So that way we can network and maybe increase the impact of the social development activities.
Yes, that's true. Thank you. Actually, yeah, something on those lines definitely needs to be followed. And I think, yeah, with the virtual way of working and living, I think that could be one of the things that we all should probably take up very seriously as well. You're right, Mr. Ashok. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So final message for all of us, all the viewers and everyone who's watching you right now.
Yes, ma'am. When we initially began our discussion, you have asked me one question: ki, what was the journey like? So, in all stages of my journey, in all activities which I take up, one underlying factor I try to keep is, as I told, how satisfied how to satisfy the people which I'm working now. So now, to the extent now, when we are discussing all these things with the qualified and professional group we are having here, my thoughts which is running me ki, during the interaction here, what could be a win-win situation? What In what manner I can satisfy the group, and what takeaways can I have from the group? So this is the thought which has been running through me. In this context, one thing is what I want to share is the corporate's social responsibility or development sector. I feel that the foundation of it lies in a term called love. So maybe somebody may be wondering what has love to do with corporate social responsibility. This is a But the underlying factor is love. When we are able to love the community or the stakeholders, we would be able to come up with the various projects. We might be having so many limitations, but at least to my experience, the love factor has enabled me to to overcome many of my obstacles. And it could be budget limitations, it could be staffing limitations, it could be project implementation limitations. So there are so much of other what would be the restrictions. So I feel that love factor is crucial. The professionalism is okay, but the underlining and foundation uh, concept could be love. The second thing is, maybe I will just want to share a story with you. It is a story which Krishna has shared. So in this story, a sage goes into a river, and he is bathing in the river. And during when he's bathing in the river, he observes a scorpion which is about to drown. So he understands that a scorpion has no ability to swim, and he apprehends that it will drown, and he catches it and try to throw it away. But as soon as he tries to catches it, it stings him. So as soon as he stings him again, he leaves the scorpion. Again, he makes a second attempt to catch the scorpion and to take it away to a safer place. And every attempt he does it, the scorpion continues to sting him. So there was a hunter nearby. He asks, "Why are you doing this unnecessarily? It is stinging you, and why are you continuously trying to touch it?" So he says that the nature of the scorpion is to sting. It is not that it is has some vengeance against me. It is having some revenge against me, but it is its nature to sting. So similarly, my nature is that to serve. So I will serve. I will try to serve in even though I have these issues with this scorpion. I will try to serve her and I will try to say. Now the reason why I am telling this story is the development sector or the stakeholders or the beneficiaries. Maybe we try to do the best for them, but sometimes even to the persons whom we have tried to do the best, it could be beneficiary, it could be government, it could be any other stakeholder, but they are born to complain against you. They say that you have done the worst thing to them in their life. So that should not maybe it should not demotivate us, and we should continue to forge on, and we should continue to work on our development initiatives.
Thank you, sir. On this note, may I request all the participants to please switch on their camera and we can have a group picture. Whoever is comfortable, which shall highly appreciate it.
Yeah, please switch on your video. Andaleep. Yeah. Smriti. Mr. Mahato. Okay.
It's okay, sir.
Okay.
I would like to thank you, Satish sir, and all the panelists today, Dr. Upadhyay, Srinivas, Andaleep, Mr. Mahato, Smriti, Vandana, everyone. Thank you so much for your presence and time and sharing your thoughts and views with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.